Hi everyone, so my name is Morgan Holbrook and this is my Gait development project. First we're going to be looking at the adolescent stage. And from looking at the videos that we've been taught in this class, it's been strictly looking at how they're walking or looking at even the different emotions that they may show that could affect this walking process that they may have. And what I've noticed from the video that was given to us for this project is that the child tends to use their hips in order to move their legs. So it almost looks like a swivel when you look at them from behind. I know as a preschool teacher, we constantly watch the children, and I've even watched them throughout even putting this project together. And it's actually really funny to watch them. But they try to keep their legs, like, it's really hard to say it, but they actually tend to swivel them outside of their body, and that way they could find their sense of balance. So they think that the wider stance that they have is going to be a sense of, okay, I'm stable, or I can do this, or, oh, look at me, look how fast I can go, but this is how I'm going to stop. Next that I looked at the video was I noticed that the child had minimal stride length. So by looking at that, he was typically taking the shorter steps in order to become more comfortable with walking. And since they're learning how to do that, it's very hard for them to just go ahead and take that big stride because they don't have that sense of balance yet. Next, I noticed that they tend to keep their arms up. They have minimal arm usage, and this could also be demonstrated due to their emotions that they may be showing. I know typically for us, even if we're at a baseball game or something, when we're happy, we like to do the wave and we like to stick our arms up in the air. Next, I noticed that they stomp their feet. They're not used to them being able to take those light steps or thinking, oh, I'm light as a feather. They like to think I'm big and I'm strong and look at me go. And they also do that for more balance and motion as well. Their feet are also off to the side, meaning that they don't really have a center of gravity. So for example, now that we're older, when we stand on one leg, we end up not having to wave side to side, or we'll end up just being able to just stand on one leg. Whereas if they were to do that, they would probably end up falling over. So the abnormality that I saw was that they lean forward while walking. And while they do that, they technically, I'm not sure exactly why they do it, but I've noticed from looking at videos is that they're still in that I cannot balance. And if I stand straight up, I'm going to fall over. And it's just a sense of they're not comfortable with it, but they tend to find the motivation in order to just keep going by finding a toy or having someone on the other side, which is also how you end up teaching a child how to walk, is go, oh, okay, go to mommy or go to daddy, and things like that, and they have their arms wide open, super excited. It all really depends on their environment. And also some constraints that I've noticed was that the child could be facing some of his environment not going well. So he might not like that toy, or even that he could have just been crying just because he wasn't feeling good, or maybe even his parent was mad at him earlier, and children are able to sense those things. This proves that the child is going through a maturation theory due to his basic motor skills emerging. So he doesn't have to think about what he's doing. It just kind of happens. He knows that if he wants that toy, he's going to go get that toy. Or if mom has a cookie, he's going to go get that cookie because he is a child. And that is what they love. Absolutely. Well, till the day that they die, they will absolutely love cookies. So one question that I've had throughout this whole entire class is, how does one's walking affect them as an adolescent? And that is a huge question that I've done so much research on and haven't really been that successful through it, except through the actual lectures of this class and the textbook for sure. And one thing that I've learned is that even if you are an adolescent and you're learning how to crawl, or you're just learning how to walk, which is what I just did the slide on, you really look at your posture and how when you get older, or even in sports, it could prevent injuries by the way that you run or even the way that you walk. It really just depends on what you're doing, how you were built, and how God created you. And looking at the injuries that people have, especially myself, I have knee injuries from being in softball. I know that I will most likely have arthritis when I become a senior citizen, or even looking at the different surgeries that I might get. Surgery definitely will give you arthritis when little things like that could be prevented. And I put this picture on the side as different ways that may help you in being able to prevent these injuries so you can have different soles in your feet. I know that they have different training, and by going to an actual trainer instead of trying to do it yourself, it's better to just do that and get that help before you cause yourself to have all these things be so much more complicated as a senior citizen. And looking at the simple changes, it's crazy how much of a small thing like a foot or like a shoe implant might even affect you the most. Looking at our next stage, we're going to be focused on the child. And the childhood normal gait, I noticed from the video, also the child uses the tips of her toes as her support, which results in like a lack of balance. So from this, I noticed, especially like the adolescent stage, how I mentioned the different emotions that they may be going through. She seemed super excited through all of this by looking at how she was standing or looking at how her fingers were pointing to her toes and her different emotions that she was expressing with a huge smile on her face. It's really hard to tell with this one of exactly like what her gait may be. But she did have a good arm swing, and she never overexceeded her shoulder length or the width that she was normally supposed to be at. And at this age, she should be taking bigger strides. But again, with her being on her tippy toes, she didn't have that balance, meaning that she wasn't very comfortable in going over that because she knew that she was going to fall. And at this age, they're a little bit more aware of their surroundings. However, they're more, not sure exactly how to say it, but they're more comfortable with what they're doing. So instead of how adolescents, you notice like they'll go from one direction to another, oh, I should not do that, so they're going to kind of fall backwards a little bit. But with this age, they're kind of like, if I fall, it doesn't matter. But with her, she seems like she would normally know exactly what she's doing, but she seemed to be super excited, and she was just eager to show that. And also, her arm swing depends mostly on the child's mood, like I was saying. If she was super happy, this could definitely affect her gait because by looking at it, her feet were becoming the center of the gravity, and that's how it should be. She was using the balls of her feet, but in gait, it's also a different way by looking at more than just how her foot is placed. It's looking at the toes, it's looking at the ankles, and by the way that she should be doing it, she was doing it abnormally. Our next stage we're going to be looking at is the adult stage. And the adult normal gait, the hips were moving, they motivated the body. So for us, it's kind of, okay, if I really want lunch, or I'm really going to go get my computer, it's you have to motivate yourself to get up. And even if we don't want to, we really kind of need to. So by looking at like the base of support and the stride length, also the arm swing, mid stance, pre-swing this gait was the most normal that I've seen. And the feet were in opposition with one another, and his arms were in opposition, causing his motivation. So by even looking at like the way that adults may run, I noticed if I pump my arms faster, and it actually makes my feet go a little bit faster. Whereas the mid stance results in his back leg that was going into a 90-degree angle. And from the other videos, I noticed that they somewhat did that, but it wasn't as frequent as the adult gait. And the hips were also slightly bent forward, and this is just making it a little bit less stress on the joints in the body. And I really like the picture that I incorporated in this slide, because looking at the adolescent in 9 months, that's like the simple, okay, that's opposition, and you're learning that. And you're learning also balance and how other ways that you can balance even as adults. And looking at the adult doing it, and I know when I do this, it's normally for a stretch, and I get to feel like, okay, like I can actually move like in this way, and it causes me to be a little bit more flexible than I am now. And then next we have this video. So in this video, it's going to simply show the differences between an adult and an elderly woman walking. I really like this video because it shows the differences in the momentum. So you notice with the younger woman, she seems to be like more motivation towards where she's going. So she seems more determined, and she's going to be going a little bit faster, whereas the elderly woman also seems a little bit more motivated. However, she's just more focused on getting there and how to be more careful with herself. So for the next one, we're going to be talking about the elderly phase. And an elderly normal gait is they have little to no stride length. So when you look at the video as presented to us when we were supposed to be making this project, is looking at how she was taking her steps. She was very careful in what she was doing because she had little to no balance as well. And I noticed that looking at her, she used the ball of her foot as her center of gravity. She wasn't on her toes, she wasn't too far back because knowing this, she knew that she would have fallen forward or backwards. And by looking at her walk, she had no hip rotation due to her stride length. So when we're walking, we tend to use our hips a little bit more in order to take those bigger strides, whereas she was just mainly more comfortable in what she was doing. Her shoulders were hunched forward because she's a little bit older and we're not really sure exactly what her past is, but it caused her to have little range of motion. So when you're hunched over, you're kind of stuck in that position and you are more trying to find your balance and how you could stay like that, even though it's becoming a normal thing of how she needs to walk. Her knees also did not bend in a 90-degree angle, causing it to be a little bit more abnormal. It's normal for a little bit more elderly, but there are also elders who are able to fully run and show that 90-degree angle, causing her to possibly be in pain. She could have arthritis due to previous injury. It really just depends. And one thing that I noticed that was really hard to see was her abnormality. So she was standing and it was super hard for her to do in with more than 20 seconds. And I know in the beginning, I don't speak Spanish, but I was able to make out a little bit that she was tired at 20 seconds. She was like, what? Like, I have to stand for 20 seconds? Like, I'm going to be tired? And it could just be based off her environment, and we're honestly not really sure because we don't know her situation. But that's what it seemed to be from me. And one of the constraints that she may be going through is her environment. So she was being able to walk a little bit during this process, but it could have been maybe the floor, or she had different flooring at her house. Maybe she just wasn't comfortable with the doctor, or maybe she took longer strides at home because she's barefoot and she was wearing shoes that maybe she's not comfortable in. It really could be between clothes, or it could even be her just the flooring. And this could also go for the same as being an adult and having that environment constraint, because in the adult video we were noticing that he is half naked and only had the swim trunks on, when normally that is not what we wear in public. Well, I hope he doesn't, but looking at it, that could have been the same thing for him as well, is having that same constraint. And the woman demonstrated the ecological perspective, because you have come so far in your gait development and now age approaches you and you might have aches and previous injuries, just like I was saying, and this might have changed her whole entire process of doing things. And it does take some time to get used to, and it's hard for a lot of elderly people. I know my great-grandma has cancer right now, but she said that she's not in very much pain, only when she takes her pain medication, which doesn't make any sense for me, but she used to be extremely into baking and was always cleaning and running up and down the stairs. And now she tells me, she's like, I'm just so tired and it's hard and I want to go and do all these things and I want to make my cakes from scratch like I used to, but she can't because of her age, and she said it's terrifying. Alright, so in this slide I went ahead and posted 2 different pictures of being in an elderly state, because there are 2 different kinds of people. You might have the people who are like the picture on the right, and this man is doing great, and then you also have the people on the left who are kind of struggling, but they're still trying to get there. And even though both of them are older, they demonstrate normal and abnormalities in their gait. For example, the one on the left is running. However, his body form could cause him many injuries from that, or it could be caused by other injuries. But from looking at his picture, his knees are bent, which is a good sign, but he looks a little bit more stiff, like he's putting more pressure on his joints. And then whereas looking at the picture on the right, the man is demonstrating a normal gait, and his posture is straight, his arms are in opposition with one another. But again, this goes back to what I was saying in the very beginning, where it all just depends on how you're able to raise yourself and correct that. And maybe the guy on the right did try doing the small little changes in his shoes or going to a trainer, whereas the one on the left could have possibly done that, but just by old age, it could be catching up to him. And on this slide,